Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything: copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
Guess what time it is? It's time for the Page Publishing Book Club. You knew that. I'm your guide, Alice Stockton Rossini, and my engineer, Rob Barrett, paves the road, clears the airwaves, so you can hear from people just like you. They're writing books, and then they're writing some more. You know, Rob, I don't think we've talked to one person who, once they start writing, they keep writing. It's like an addiction. It's like chocolate. It's like a bag of potato chips. Once you open them, you just can't stop. So, you see, all you have to do is write it. Write what you know. Write what you love. Our first author loves to give back by helping young girls between the ages of 11 and 18 realize their full potential and avoid unhealthy relationships. Olivia Young wrote One Chance to Live Young.
The book is about three teenage girls who experience a transition to high school, along with everything that that has to bring. They have to learn how to say goodbye to some old friends who no longer share their same motivation for life, and they have to embrace some new experiences that they weren't necessarily prepared for. The book helps the girls to learn how to talk to God through their journals. And as they write to God, they kind of reflect upon their own beliefs in the Word and their own relationship with Jesus. So as they experience various struggles with the new transition to high school, they really embrace their faith for themselves. So I'm very excited about it. They write as if they are writing in their journals, and you can kind of gain a first-hand experience about their opinion and everything that they're going through.
Is this your experience?
My experience is kind of inspired. The events in the story, during high school, I was bullied a lot. I dealt with a lot of unhealthy behaviors. I dealt with a lot of unhealthy relationships. I began to drink quite early. And yet throughout all of that, I was still extremely motivated about education. And I still felt as if I wanted to do more and be more. So I understand the experiences that young women have as they struggle to find their own place in society. And yet it is not my story. I was able to kind of write the events from my imagination.
Well, you're a teacher, right?
I am.
So do you see, the relationships girls have with each other, how students relate to these things?
Yes, I teach kindergarten, but I teach kindergarten on a K-12 campus. And so I'm really able to observe the various interactions between girls ages 11 to 18. In addition to that, I direct a nonprofit titled the Colorfully Candid Paradise, and I work specifically with girls ages 11 to 18 in that age group to help them identify their strengths so that they can become the best individuals that they can be, and so that they can basically grow into the person and learn the purpose that God has for their lives.
So your book is a handbook for them of sorts.
Yes. And they actually support me quite well. They were some of the first editors that I ever had. And even now, we study the book, and I hope to prepare a workbook for mothers and daughters to accompany the novel so that we can build stronger and healthier relationships between mothers and daughters, since that age is such an important and essential time for communication between the two.
It is such a hard time.
It is. It really is. Mothers and daughters are experiencing so many different emotions, and the level of communication usually isn't present as it needs to be, simply because the girls don't know how to communicate what they're feeling. So we offer programs so that they can voice the issues that they're going through, and then we kind of put them in the aspects of the Bible so that we can learn more about what Christ says, how we should handle our issues. And then we get back with our moms and we talk about the issues from there and try to grow together.
How'd you find Paige?
I found Paige through a website, and I was extremely grateful to find Paige. Everything just exceeded my expectations, and I'm just extremely blessed that Paige decided to work with me and pick up my material.
Excellent, Olivia. I give her a lot of credit. Working with young girls, man, that is a tough age. Once again, her nonprofit is called the Colorfully Candid Paradise. Our next writer is also a young woman, a nursing student in Sacramento, California. She was inspired to write in a most unusual way. Artie Pandit wrote, "Forever Yours."
It's a love story that takes place before World War II, and you hear it through a female perspective about how she first came to love a boy that she had met when she was younger, and it's just how their love developed through time. I was inspired by a song that came out a little while ago called If I Die Young by the band Perry.
All right, so why don't we hear a little piece of this song?
If I die young, bury me in satin, lay me down on a bed of roses, sink me in the river at dawn, send me away.
Wow, a little depressing about somebody who dies really young.
I just heard the song and thoughts started coming to my head, and I wrote them down, and all of a sudden the story just came out of the words.
Just enough time.
And when I first heard the song, I really loved the story that the song was saying, but I just felt it incomplete, and so I wanted to give my perspective on the song, and this is what I thought of.
Have other people read the story?
Yes, I've had a few friends read it and tell me what they thought about it, and almost all of my friends that read it said that they loved it, and they're pretty much the reason why I wanted to get it published. Everybody told me it was so good and they needed to put it out there, so that's what I did.
What's the time period this is set in?
Before World War II, like right before it broke out.
Is that a period in history that captivates you in some way?
That's the funny part. No, it doesn't. I'm not actually too familiar with that time period, so it's a little surprising to all my friends that I would choose this time period specifically. I just felt that when I heard this song, it was more of that time period. And as I was writing it, I realized that the history of it, the clothing, the way people talked, the way they acted, I liked it enough to write more about that era than the era I'm more familiar with, which is the 20s.
So you wrote a book, you're studying nursing, and now what?
I would very much still like to pursue nursing, but I have started to write another book after I started to publish this one. I'm still in the middle of that one, though. I still wouldn't consider myself a good writer, like as my profession as a writer.
Artie's got the writing bug. Let's hear a little bit more of that song.
If I die young, bury me in satin, lay me down on a bed of roses, sink me in the river.
Amazing how the music can inspire you, isn't it? And she comes up with a pre-World War II love story. I just think it's funny, the way her mind works. Our next author is also a young woman who has a story about overcoming adversity, succeeding in the face of those who never, ever, ever thought she could. The name of her book, Beauty Underneath Antiques, and she goes by the pen name Pixie Mallard, which she got from watching the Land Before Time movies. Remember those? They were the ones with the dinosaurs, right?
So between being obsessed with all things magical and having a voice like Ducky, everybody would call me either Pixie or Ducky. So that's how I came up with it.
I remember those. They were so cute. So where did Beauty Underneath Antiques come from?
I liked the idea that there was beauty like underneath the surface of our world that we just weren't seeing. It came out more as I wrote the stories for the first book. I needed a name for the antique shop, and I kept bouncing ideas around in my head, and I wanted to come up with something that, under all of the dust and the grime that antiques have, there is beauty under there. These stories about a group of magical teenagers that end up finding each other and become apprentices to their magic master, Chuck. And they run around and they save the town from demons in a flytrap and their friend from an evil ex-girlfriend. They fight the Jersey Devil at one point, runaway trains and video games, and they celebrate by eating waffles.
Did this just come to you in a dream?
Well, yes, but no. It was a lot of work to come up with basic ideas. My friends that I grew up with influenced some of the characters. All of the parts I loved about my friends, and I put them into all of my characters. I actually started writing it when I was in high school. I was in marching band my whole life for about 9 years, and that was really important to me. So the main character, Hex, is in marching band, and one of the other main characters is also in band. And some of the stories, some of the things they say are things that got said or happened while we were in band, and I wanted to immortalize that because I love my friends, but nobody wants to read stories about marching band. So I took my love and knowledge of magic, and I got to toss that in, and it actually made a pretty cool story.
How long ago were you in high school?
I think it's coming up on 2 years.
Oh, okay. So are you in college now?
Yes, I am.
Usually there's a reason that you write a book. There's a reason that you want to tell a story, and there's a reason you want to tell it now.
Okay. I have had a learning disability all of my life. I could not read, actually, until I was in first grade. So people didn't expect much from me because, she's got a learning disability, she's a social butterfly, she'll make it through high school, but probably not much past that. And I was like, kind of gave me a kick in the pants. I started writing, I think, when I was in about fifth grade. I always told stories, but I started really writing when I was in fifth grade, and I just never stopped. So I wanted to show people that you can have fun with writing, you can have fun with reading, and you aren't your situation. I mean, I'm 21 years old, and I have a published book that nobody thought I would make it past high school.
You're proof that you can overcome a learning disability.
Yeah.
So good for you.
I like to think so.
Yeah. How did you find Paige?
I heard about it on the radio. I heard it a couple times before I actually decided to contact them because my story had been done for about a year at that time. So I was like, well, if any story is going to get published, it should be this one.
You're going to keep writing, right?
Of course.
You got another book ready to go or what?
I have the second book in the Beauty Underneath Antique series almost done.
You go, Pixie Mallard. Not one book, but two. Yes, two. Yes. Another shining example, Page Publishing Book Club fans, of you can do it if you want. We are going to take a very quick break, and when we come back, more love on the Page Publishing Book Club. Stay with us.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple, iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you. Printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-204-6099 for your free author submission kit.
Welcome back to the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini, along with my engineer, Rob Barrett. He sits on the other side of the glass and just takes it all in. He's like a sponge. Did you ever hear of dissociative identity disorder? Me neither. I not at all until I talked to Angel Plotner, who wrote a story of survival called Who Am I? This girl's got the fucking man. You know, she says when you have this disease that you wake up and you go, fuck, man. You look at your credit card bill, you know you went shopping, but you don't remember. Did I say it right? Disassociative?
Yes, you did.
What does that mean?
It's a remake on the word multiple personalities. You're going along, you're in your developmental years, something traumatic happens, you dissociate in your mind so that when the traumatic event is over, you can go on and function like it never happened. And that's what causes multiple personalities. So then along the way, the psychiatric community came up with a different word to take multiple personalities out of play, and that's where disassociative comes from. I've been through a very abusive life, and then along the age of 18, 19 years old, I started missing time. It's 11 o'clock, but I don't remember anything from 9 o'clock this morning. And you start wondering, what in the world have you done? And then the more that happens, the more that you end up asking questions to doctors and whatnot. And that's when you get diagnosed with dissociation, and you start to kind of get in touch with the personality that's been created. And that's what happened with me. And then because I couldn't find any help here in Louisville, I ended up finding an organization in Michigan. That's all they do, is help people like me. So that's why I wrote the book.
Well, did you have like a completely different personality, alter ego?
Different personality, yes, and I had tons of them. That's one of the benefits of the program in Michigan. There's tons of people with personality, but they get misdiagnosed with schizophrenia a lot. And when you get misdiagnosed, you get all the medication that comes with that. So it keeps it all at bay, and you really don't get to the bottom of the problem. You just get put in this circle of medication doctor, medication doctor, medication doctor.
How can you tell the difference between schizophrenia and this disorder?
Okay, two very, very distinct deals. The first one is schizophrenia hears voices audibly from the outside. Multiple personalities or dissociatives hear voices within. So it's not an audible voice coming from the outside. It's within your own head. And the other one, schizophrenics don't lose time. Dissociative people lose time. That's the big key. That's the big one. Like, okay, so I'm missing 3 hours of my day and I can't remember what in the world happened, but then you get a credit card bill and somewhere along the way you went shopping and you've got the paperwork to say that you went shopping, but you don't remember, and then I have friends call me and say, Angel, you were blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, I don't even remember being at your house.
It's got to be tough to live that way, Angel.
It's extremely hard to live that way. And that's why once you can figure out that you are not schizophrenic and you're dissociative, you need to find the help like I did to learn how to get in touch with it, manage it, live with it, and then integrate where it doesn't happen anymore.
You can overcome this. So this book is about helping people realize, whether or not they have it, and then starting on the journey to overcome it.
Correct. I'm hoping someone will read the book and say, hey, this answers a lot of questions. We see this. We want to talk to you, because I would love to share my story.
Angel, I hope you get to share your story. I mean, it's scary to think that you could lose a whole day. I mean, even a couple of hours and not know where you were or what you were doing. Even scarier to think you're on drugs and getting treated for schizophrenia or some other kind of disease that you don't even have. Anyway, we're going to switch it up a little bit and go on a mythological journey with Ronald Wilson through Tears of the Gods.
Well, it's about two boys and their adventures with all their friends. They're offsprings of one of the Nordic gods, Balder, who was killed by Loki because Loki was jealous of him. Nowhere in the Nordic mythology does it say how old Balder was, so I kind of pictured him like an older teenager, and he fell in love with this mortal girl, and she became pregnant, and she had 3 children. And this is after Balder had died. and Lukey was jealous of her, and he is after to get rid of these offsprings. And the first one that was born was Emma. The other two are Skip and Wes. They find out that there's a prize of Odin had cried for Balder's death, and his tears were hidden away, and this is the prize that the kids are trying to find.
What got you interested in this?
A friend of mine at work and we kind of got into the Harry Potter thing, and he knew that I like to write stories, and he said, why don't you come up with a story and write a book, and I'll read it. And I said, well, what are you interested in? And he said about, well, Thor and Odin are the big thing right now. He says, I'll get on the internet and send you a dictionary on the Nordic mythology. And I took about a month and went over it really in detail and learned a lot about the Nordic mythology, and this is what I came up with. I wrote the book. It took me like 13 months to write it. And he read it, and he says, did you ever think about getting it published? He says, Ron, it's good. And I said, well, I never really tried, but so that's what happened.
Well, is it a book for children?
I'd say older teenagers and adults. Most of the adults that read it, they liked it, and I'm hoping that the teenagers like it as well. I haven't had any teenagers yet that read it that I know of, but they're out there.
What's the message you want people to take away from this book?
Basically, it's friendship. It's actually the complete title is The Complete Adventures of Skip and Wes Mason, Book 1, Tears of the Gods. When I was reading the Nordic mythology and that, I came up with 11 outlines for 11 different books.
Oh, my God.
So, and there's like 2 books that are spin-offs from that, too. So, hopefully I'm able to write all 11 books and people enjoy them, that's all.
So you have just begun, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah, I have. Well, I've sent the second book to Page, and they have accepted it, and I'm working on book 3 right now. Hopefully, the public likes them, and I can keep doing it.
Nice, Ronald, who, by the way, is a maintenance man at Walmart in Fort Worth, Texas, and he's hoping maybe, just maybe, Walmart will help him out, let him sell a couple of books. He's got 11 outlines, his first time out. 11 outlines. If he can do it, so can you. All right, we're going to stay with the mythological and talk to Thomas Cificello, who wrote Of Darkest Valor. Think of Game of Thrones, medieval fantasy.
You know what? I actually had the idea for a long time to write the book, and I never actually sat down and started doing it. And then one day, I just sat down. I started looking up character names. I looked up into writing down the plot. I was out of work. I was out of school, and it was kind of just my outlet, my way of dealing with things. It was just 2 years back, and that was just my way of dealing with it. It was just writing. And it started out as a hobby, and one day, actually, my friend Jared sat down, and he started reading what I was writing, and he said, you know what, this is pretty good. And once he told me that, I just kind of took it a step further and took it a little bit more seriously after that.
So what's the story about?
It's a medieval fantasy. There's a lot of action in it, and it follows the storyline of the character Tristan, who is part of this order, the Order of Acreum, an undefeated order. And it follows his storyline as he deals with treachery and friendship and love. And there's a lot of plot twists in it. It's a great book.
Were you inspired by, Star Wars or?
The main thing that inspired me, I would have to say, to start writing was actually George Martin's books, the Game of Thrones series.
Oh.
Those books, when you read them, if you're a fan of reading, those are the books to read, And I always had I always had other authors that inspired me. I had David Gemmell, who actually passed away back in '06, and Robert Jordan, who wrote the Wheel of Time series. He passed away also. And they gave me my love for reading. But then I believe it was George Martin with his book series that gave me the love to start writing.
He put you over the top.
He put me over the top.
Yeah. Okay, so how'd you end up with Paige?
When you first, I mean, this is my first novel that I wrote. And when you first start submitting to publishing companies, you know, a lot of the publishing companies write on their sites, you know, you won't even look at your manuscript unless you have a literary agent representing you. And, you know, you go and try and find a literary agent, and they say they won't really represent you unless you have a publishing company backing you. And the thing with Page Publishing is I submitted to them, and I got a call back from Noel Jones over there. And he told me, he said, you know what? If we like your manuscript, we will go with you. And, you know, he wasn't beating around the bush with me. He told me straight up how it was. Submitted my full manuscript to them after signing a full disclosure form. And we just went from there.
It's great. So what are you doing to get the word out?
That actually has been the most difficult part. But what I've been doing so far is I created a Facebook page, and I'm on the site goodreads.com, which is actually a great site if you're a reader or you're an aspiring author. You just go on there. It's, you know, it's a whole community of people that are just reading. I've done a giveaway through that site, and, you know, it's basically just like a raffle. People submit through it, and the site Goodreads chooses 2 winners, and you just, you know, send the books over to the people. And, you know, it's just a good way to get, you know, your word out, the name out there for your book and your name. I will go to, you know, local bookstores, and I'll talk to them about getting copies of my book on their shelves. I actually had business cards made up, and I'll just hand it to, you know, the manager that's there and say, you know, if you have anything open up, you know, just give me a call.
Nice, Tom. Now, there's a couple of ideas for you. Go to goodreads.com and go see some booksellers yourself and see if you can maybe get something going. I mean, make up some cards, and there you go. Tom, by the way, is already on his 2nd volume, and he expects to be writing for a very, very long time. Okay, we are out of time for tonight. Thanks so much for stopping by. Make a plan to join us again next week for another edition of the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini with Rob Barrett's my engineer. Valentine's Day is coming. Go find a Cupid.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything. Copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204